Hi, everybody. Peter Greenberg here. Welcome to Thursday, the 7th of December. Wow, this year is going fast. And happy to join you for our regular global travel update. Today, we're coming to you from the legendary French Riviera in Cannes, from the iconic Hotel Intercontinental, otherwise known as, it's now called the Regent Hotel. It's actually called the Carlton. It's been around a long time, recently renovated, great, iconic, historic hotel right here on the Croisette. Why am I here? No suntan, not sunning myself. I'm here for the International Luxury Travel Market. It's an annual event, the largest, fastest growing event going of bringing together every travel entity you can imagine, hotels, airlines, cruise lines, tour operators, luxury rental cars, you name it. If you want to know how the other 1% lives and travels and moves, you come here to find out the trends and, of course, trying to figure out if any of this is sustainable given the amount of money people are spending on travel these days. We can get into that later. Of course, you want to ask me any questions, you know what to do. Send in your questions. We'll go through them in a second. First, I want to talk about a couple of developments that need to be talked about. One, the bombshell earlier this week that Alaska Airlines is going to buy Hawaiian Airlines in a $1.9 billion deal. I thought consolidation was just about over. I was wrong. And the irony is, of course, that for so many years, everybody thought someone was going to take over Alaskan Airlines. And Alaska wasn't taken over. Everybody thought American was going to buy them or Delta. Nope. In fact, when nobody was looking, Alaska went out and bought, you remember this, Virgin America. And very quickly took the brand and the name off the planes. And now Alaska Airlines flies transcon routes within the domestic U.S. And they also happen to fly to Hawaii, which brings up this interesting point of will the Justice Department weigh in on this and claim it's an anti-competitive move and sue to block it. The Justice Department is already doing that right now in court in Boston on the proposed merger of JetBlue and Spirit. That's an interesting development because if the JetBlue and Spirit deal goes through, in whatever way it does, that would leave only one ULCC, otherwise known as ultra low-cost carrier in the U.S. of any substance, and that would be Frontier. That in itself might be anti-competitive if Frontier decides to raise their airfares, because even if they raise their airfares $60 to $100 per ticket, they'd be lower than American, United, and Delta, and you'd be paying more, a lot more, relatively speaking. So we're going to see what happens there. My guess is that the deal with Spirit and JetBlue might go through with some concessions by JetBlue in terms of slots, gates, and routes. Why is JetBlue wanting to merge with Spirit? Not because they're similar cultures, they're not. Not because they have similar routes, in many cases they don't overlap at all. The reason is JetBlue wants planes, and they both happen to fly the same type of planes, the A320s, the A321s, and if JetBlue went to Airbus and said, hey, we'd like 300 planes, please, Airbus would tell them, well, you're going to have to wait 8 years. They merge with Spirit, they get them tomorrow, along with a pilot group that already has been trained in order how to fly them. It's no waiting. And that will allow JetBlue to become a major player on international routes, and that would be competitive with other airlines. However, Spirit, the future of Spirit, if that happens, is a little iffy. I don't think JetBlue wants to fly the Spirit routes. I don't think JetBlue wants to fly the Spirit culture, whatever that culture is. Not to mention an ultra low-cost carrier. So we'll see what happens in that case. It's too soon to see what's going to happen with Hawaiian and Alaska, but it's certainly an interesting development. Now, if you really take a look at the route systems of both Alaska and Hawaiian, you'll see that Hawaiian gets a lot of domestic routes they never could get before. I mean, they could get them, they just weren't capable of flying them based on their equipment and based on their number of planes. And Alaska gets to go all the way out to the South Pacific. So it's different and seamless connections of a different kind. So more on that as the story develops, but I do want to share that with you. The other interesting development, of course, and if you watched me last week, many of you responded. I got lots of messages after our broadcast about this one word, algorithm, and my dispute with American Express. And I've had subsequent conversations with other banking officials, other credit card company officials, and other former officials from American Express. And once again, I opened the platform to American Express to come on and respond, to tell me that I'm wrong or I'm inaccurate, or to explain what they're doing. But I'm now getting a better picture of not only what they're doing, but why. For those of you who didn't watch last week, I've had an American Express card since 1973. Yes, I am that old, although I did get it when I was 5 years old. But having said that, that means I've had the card for 50 years. And it's not a credit card, it's a charge card. And that means you're responsible for paying your bill in full every month, no exceptions. Now, the benefit of having an American Express card, at least in its initial incarnation, was that there was no preset spending limit. You didn't have a credit limit like you do on a credit card, and you weren't going to be charged interest if you paid it in full, and that gave you the flexibility and freedom to buy some pretty high-ticket items as long as you paid it off. And you know what? For people who travel a lot like me and are running pretty high balances, it seemed to be the appropriate card. Well, and by the way, I get my bill every month, and I pay it in full every month. And because we produce a number of shows around the world, I'm constantly putting a lot of charges on that card, whether it's airline tickets or hotel bills or rental cars, meals, you name it. My card charges started getting denied by American Express. Not once, not twice, every single charge, including my cable TV bill or a gas station purchase. I mean, it was crazy. Now, you've all experienced this before at least once if you travel, where the credit card company thinks there may be fraud because how can you be in this location when you were in another location yesterday? Well, I can answer that. I flew. But it triggers an alarm about possible fraud. That part I get. That's not what happened here. In fact, what happened here wasn't about fraud or the possibility of fraud. The possibility of me having my card stolen, no. Or lost, no. And it wasn't about not paying the bill on time. In fact, I always pay the bill on time. We now go back to that word, algorithm. And what the algorithm was telling American Express was that I was spending a little bit more than I normally do. Well, why is that their business if I'm paying my bill in full every month and have been? Well, I finally found the answer. And it's so simple and it's so stupid. Apparently, American Express, and by the way, American Express, if you think I'm wrong, please come on the show and let's discuss this. You can either come on this, or you can come on my radio show, you can email me, you can even send smoke signals. But you know what? I haven't heard from you, and that tells me volumes about whether or not I'm right or not. But whether I'm right or not doesn't matter if we can't fix this problem for many other people who also wrote into me following what I talked about last week. Here's what the problem is. American Express wanted to expand their customer base so much, they were giving out American Express cards to just about anybody. People who may not be as responsible as I am when paying their bills, many of whom may not be charging as much as I am. And what did it do to the average that was put into the algorithm about what would trigger an alarm? It lowered it. So all of a sudden, I'm violating an alarm that never should have been applied. And it's happening to other people as well. I should tell you that I've stopped using my American Express card. My bill is paid in full. And I've taken all my pre-authorized charges off of it and put it on other credit cards that at least, I don't go over my credit limit, so they're fine with it. Let's just say I've revised the American Express motto. I'm sorry to say that after 50 years, I no longer leave home with it. And let's see what happens. But so many of you have written in or emailed me saying they're doing it to me. I've had the card for 15 years. I've had the card for 20 years. What does this tell you about what American Express is worried about? Interesting, right? And after 50 years, it also tells you they don't trust their own customers. That's not a good loyalty program, speaking of loyalty programs. So we'll talk about that next week as well, especially if American Express wants to come on and talk to me about it, right? I'm not making this a one-person crusade because so many of you have also told me it's happening to you. So I'm always in the search of a good story. I think I found one. And for all those people who like to embrace algorithms, it may be artificial intelligence. It's also present-day stupidity and lack of common sense. And it doesn't exactly enable a great feeling of loyalty. All right, we shall move. Oh, and by the way, I'm hearing from some of you right now about your American Express cards with Delta. That's another issue with American Express that was triggered by stupidity on Delta's part when they tried to revise their frequent flyer program by basically telling you had no more perks or very few perks left using that card. But I'll get to that when I answer some of your questions that are now coming in. But bottom line is, that's a problem. Another problem, the FAA, in reaction to a New York Times investigative piece, has announced they're establishing committees about training for air traffic controllers and work environment and overtime, not to mention staffing. Let's face it, we have a problem right now. Now, I'll give you the good news first. We've just celebrated like the 30 years of safe aviation, the 30 safest years of aviation safety since commercial aviation began. That's great, and we should celebrate that. When you think about it, fatal crashes in the United States, there was Colgan Air back in 2009, and before that, in November of 2001, 2 months after 9/11, we had the American Airlines A300 that went into the bay after taking off from JFK when the tail fell off. And you had a Comair flight in Lexington, Kentucky. That's it. That's it. Just absolutely amazing safety record. And we should be so thankful and so appreciative and celebratory. And I am. So here's the question, though, that comes out of that. Can we improve on that percentage? Probably not, because we're doing such a great job. Asterisk. Second question, can we maintain it? My argument is no. And the reason for that is the accident waiting to happen. The FAA understaffed. The FAA still doesn't understand that we're the clients, not the airlines. And the FAA having rules in place that actually protect the people they're actually supposed to do oversight on. I'll give you an example. A lot of airlines now are outsourcing their maintenance work to overseas maintenance operations. They're called MROs. Now, there's no problem with that in essence, right? In theory. But now let's dig down deeper. You're sending your work, your crucial maintenance work, to overseas locations where there is no FAA oversight. There's no inspection. There are language difficulties. And under FAA rules, now this is the craziest part, if an FAA inspector wants to go and check on the work being done by these MROs overseas, planes that you're flying on, they have to get permission. And it goes through bureaucracy you can't believe. They have to get permission that they know there's a problem before they go. That's not what inspectors do. They go to inspect to determine if there is a problem. You understand the problem right there. But wait, folks, it gets worse. Let's say the FAA inspector does get permission to go and shows up. He's only given a limited time because of the limited budget of the FAA to do the inspection work, when in fact, he doesn't really inspect the work, he just inspects the paperwork. Anybody can tick off a box, but wait, it gets even worse. Let's back up a second. The FAA inspector asks for permission to go inspect. He's actually then given permission to go inspect. Oh no, he can't go tomorrow. The FAA has a requirement that the agency has to give that MRO a 7-day notice that the FAA is coming. That's like the health department telling the restaurant, we're going to inspect the kitchen in a week. Do you think the kitchen will get cleaned up? Yeah, but in the meantime, everybody's dying from the food for the previous 6 days. We need a massive overhaul of the FAA so we can maintain this amazing safety record. I just gave you one example. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Whether it's bogus parts that aren't being inspected, whether it's safety violations that are not flagged as airworthiness directives, that I could do an entire hour on that. But the fact remains that while we celebrate this great safety record for 30 years plus, we better focus on what needs to be done to maintain it. Because if we don't, we do have an accident waiting to happen. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that now, but it's important. It's important. By the way, since we're coming into the holidays, you might want to know the most expensive cities to live in for this year, should you be living in them. Number one, it's a tie. Zurich and Singapore. Number two, actually number three, because 1 and 2 were tied, it's also a tie, New York and Geneva. Switzerland is not doing well. Number 5, Hong Kong. Number 6, Los Angeles. Number 7, Paris. Number 8, Tel Aviv and Copenhagen, a tie. And rounding it out, number 10, San Francisco. All right, let's go to the boards and say hello to a few people here. I'm going to scroll back up. Here we go. Harriet and Jim are actually in Vientiane, Laos. Wow. That's a far cry from where you normally check in from, so hi to you guys. Paul is saying greetings from Ashland, Virginia. Colleen Casey, hi from sunny Sausalito. Randy's saying greetings from Ann Arbor, Michigan, go blue. Yep, well listen, you can say it, I can't, I'm a Badger. Adrian Parks is saying morning from Huntington Beach. Sue is saying hi from Bellingham, Washington. Scott's saying just returned from a 4-night cruise on the MSC Seashore and had a blast. What are your thoughts on cruise lines continuing to increase prices on gratuities and Wi-Fi? All right, let's talk about those as separate issues, okay? The whole idea of a tip is you should be in control of it, right? And you should have the ability to say, wow, that was really great service. That particular person deserves a thank you from me in the form of a tip. What some cruise lines are doing is they've been doing it for years, right? They put envelopes in your cabin on the night before you're leaving with a relatively strong suggestion of what everybody needs to be paid, right? There's something wrong with that. It takes away a good feeling, not because anybody's cheap or stingy, but because I think tipping needs to come from the heart. It needs to be genuine. It needs to be proactive. And that's not the way to do it. Now, there are other cruise lines, and this gets into a gray area when you think about it in terms of human behavior. There are other cruise lines that say, you know, your tip is included in the price of your cabin, and these are cruise lines that typically are more expensive, and that we really take care of our people much better than just depending on you for tips, and that includes the wages they're getting. I support that, but what the gray area is, we're so conditioned to want to tip anyway that there's a lot of double dipping going on because people just feel they were given such great service they want to tip anyway. And you know what? If you want to do it, you should. But for the mandatory tipping, I get mad. How about the restaurant bills these days where they give you what you should be tipping? And you have to tick off a box. Really? Oh, all right. Now, for Wi-Fi, cruise lines need to get real. Hotels took a while to figure out you can't charge for Wi-Fi. People are going to revolt. They want to stay connected. Now, in the old days, cruise lines had to charge for Wi-Fi because their systems were very expensive and everybody wanted to use it. But now, we've got so many more advanced systems, including Elon Musk's Starlink system. What a great, I mean, I'm telling you, this works like a charm, that you're now seeing cruise lines saying, you know what, we'll price everything differently, but we're not going to charge for Wi-Fi. Because people are expecting to use it, they want to use it, they want to stay connected. We're going to make it a part of the deal. And they're not charging for Wi-Fi. Cruise lines like Silversea, for example, and many others. That's the way it should be. In terms of your entire travel experience, Do you really want to go to your wallet every time you breathe anyway? Don't you feel better about anybody in the service industry that doesn't embrace a nickel and dime, or, as I like to say, mini bar mentality? You know, it's so, you asked for my thoughts? Those are my thoughts. All right, Katrina's saying hi from Alabama. Lorena's weighing in from Lansing. The new coach has arrived. Okay, maybe there's hope. I have no idea what you're saying. Tell me more. Okay, Adrian says, haven't forgiven JetBlue for leaving the Long Beach area. They were so convenient for nonstops to New York. Well, you know, it's interesting. That's somewhat ironic because when JetBlue started, they really wanted to have an immediate impact in the market. And they looked around to see which two airports or which three airports could they start service from and to that were actually underutilized on each coast. And what they discovered was, which is a big surprise to many of us, but it was true, that one of the most underutilized airports for domestic flights in the United States at that time was JFK. They had a huge push at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, a huge push at 11 o'clock at night, but other than that, it was like a ghost town out there. So they had a lot of extra slots they could play with, and they got them. And then they looked on the West Coast. And what was the most underutilized airport in Los Angeles? It certainly wasn't LAX. It was Long Beach. And they got all the slots. They went and got, I think, 19 of the 20 slots. I may be wrong, but they got everything short of like one slot. And they flooded the zone, and people began to love JetBlue. And it was very funny because the other airlines, American especially, which ignored JetBlue, all of a sudden started to see their market share shrink with people going down to Long Beach and flying JetBlue. So they started flying from Long Beach, and JetBlue just ate their lunch, and America just had to pull out. Ironically, JetBlue has now pulled out of Long Beach. I was really sorry to see that as well. I agree with you about that. Jew is saying hello from Japan, as always. Mary's saying from East Bay, Northern California. Alexander's saying, hope you're enjoying ILTM. I am. It's a great opportunity for me to meet the movers and the shakers and the newsmakers, to be able to get from them the information I can then share with all of you. And no one's on the beach, no one's sipping pina coladas. It's only about 38 degrees here right now. It's beautiful. It's cold, and we're spending most of our time, of course, at the Palais, otherwise known as the convention area. When it's not used for this, it's, of course, the Cannes Film Festival. Paul is saying, I heard it is better to book a cruise with a travel agent rather than the cruise line. Better prices and trip protection. Thoughts? If true, will any travel agent do? Oh, you misspelled that, but that's okay. I forgive you. It's D-O, not D-U-E, but we'll get to that later. Look, when it comes to travel, unless you look at travel as a commodity, or you're only going from like New York to Chicago every day of your life on Southwest, I'm a big fan of talking to travel agents. I'm a big fan of talking to travel advisors. I'm a big fan of researching online so you're more educated as to what your options are, but those aren't your only options. That's the point, and the internet cannot answer your questions. So my suggestion is, yes, go through a cruise-only travel agent. They have preferred supplier relationships with numbers of cruise lines, and they can answer questions that go beyond how much does the cabin cost. They can talk about shore excursions. They can talk about onboard credits. They can talk about other deals in terms of packages you can buy or maybe avoid, and which ports make sense to do shore excursions, which ports make sense to do it on your own. So many other things to talk about. Yes, I'm a big fan of that. Okay, Joseph's saying, oh, he's listening in from Nairobi. All right. As you know, we were in Nairobi back in June. Can't wait to get back. Let's keep going here. Okay. Do I think it's age discrimination? Oh, you talk about the American Express thing? Well, I don't. Unless they know something that I don't know. You know, it's funny about age discrimination. This is not related to the story, but it makes me laugh anyway. Way back when, and I'm talking about in the 70s, I became a lifetime member. I spent the $400, that's what it cost then, to be a lifetime, because I knew I'd be traveling a lot. I was already traveling a lot, in the Delta Airlines Crown Room. It's now been called the Sky Clubs or whatever it's called. But in those days, it was the Crown Room. And they sent me a card, and it had my name on it, and it had my number on, and it said lifetime. And about a year and a half ago, I was at LaGuardia. I went to use the lounge, and they said, "I'm sorry, sir, but your membership is expired." And I said, "Well, it's lifetime." "I'm sorry, sir, the system says it expired." And I said, "Well, that means only one of two things. Either I'm dead or you've stopped flying. And since I'm here and you're flying, I still think I'm lifetime." They wouldn't let me in. So I didn't write in a letter using my platform as a CBS News travel editor. I just wrote a letter to Delta as a member of the then Sky Club, or the former Crown Room, saying, "This is a problem, can you fix it?" I'm not making this up. 2 weeks later, I get in the mail a replacement membership card for the Delta Airlines Sky Club, and it says lifetime on it. And in the lower right-hand corner has an expiration date. What do they know that I don't know? So the answer to your question, Harry and Jim, about my American Express situation is, maybe they do know something I don't know. But it'd be nice to tell me. I've had the card for 50 years. All right, let's keep going. Okay, here's one from Lorraine that says, "My American Express card through Delta told me that if I got my TSA PreCheck through a valid location, I would get a credit on my American Express card. When it didn't come, I called again, only be told I didn't have the Platinum card, and that doesn't give free TSA PreCheck reimbursement." I said, "Why would I pay extra for Platinum when I can't even use the miles I have because it's so restrictive?" My point exactly. There are a lot of people, based on what Delta Airlines did with trying to revamp their frequent flyer program, of no benefit whatsoever to us, that were cutting up their American Express cards. Not because of my situation, but because they couldn't find the value proposition of having the American Express Club card when you couldn't get into the lounge and you couldn't use your miles. Right? To be continued. Okay, let's keep going here. Paul says, about Amex, there are just about 5 or 6 things that a company does correctly, and when they deviate from them, they screw their business model up. I've seen it happen firsthand. And he's referring, of course, to American Express. Juan is reminding me that the plane I was talking about, the American Airlines flight on November 11th, 2001, was American Airlines Flight 587 to Santo Domingo. Thank you for that, Juan. Okay, Eddie's saying, "I have a Western Caribbean cruise booked on the Sky Princess in February, and I was not inspired by the reviews of the excursions in Costa Maya. Is that a good part to do on your own?" I'm going to tell you how to do it. Whether it's the Costa Maya or, Southampton. When you get your cruise ship itinerary, it's going to tell you what time the ship gets into the port and leaves. What you then do is it's very easy to find out what's the name of the best hotel in that port. And you call the concierge of that hotel and say, "Listen, I'll be sailing in on, your case, the Sky Princess in February." You give them the date and the time you're arriving. "How much will it cost for me to hire a car and driver for the day?" Now, I don't need a Mercedes. I don't need a Lamborghini. I just need an Altima or a Prius. I mean, just a car to take us around. And they'll give you a price. Now, you're going to meet at least one couple on that cruise you're going to like. Chip in with them, split the cost, and now you have a car and a driver, and you do your own shore excursion, but your only responsibility is don't miss the departure of the ship. Okay? So give yourself plenty of time to get back to the ship in time to leave. Okay. All right. Adrian says, "Sounds like foreign lobbyists have a hand in writing the FAA's regulations." Actually, it has nothing to do with foreign lobbyists. I'll tell you what it has to do with. It has to do with reciprocity. Would you believe that the European Union, and by the way, believe it because it's true, that the European Union has a list that they publish of the airlines they think are so unsafe they will not allow them to land at European Union country airports? And I think that's great. And by the way, they publish it so the public can read it and make informed decisions. If you ask the FAA, do they have that list? They do. Will they release it to you? They won't, because they're afraid that if they did, those foreign countries would start banning American, United, and Delta and JetBlue and any other U.S. airline flying to that destination from their airspace. They're just worried about reciprocity. Once again, they're forgetting who the client is. The client is the citizens of the United States. All right, let's keep going. Gina's saying, hi from expensive San Diego. You've used that line before. John Lample's back. He's back in New York. Hello, John. Sid is saying hello from dirt cheap Miami. You know that's a lie. Joan is saying good morning from the Bay Area. Go 49ers. All right. All right, they have a new coach for the MSU football team. Well, we're talking football today. Hello, Juan again. Beth is saying, thanks for the updates. Living the good life in Naples. All right. Okay, Terry saying hi from Route 66. I think I answered the Alaska Hawaiian Airlines thing. And I will think that as opposed to what Alaska did with Virgin America, Alaska is not going to change the Hawaii logo, the Hawaiian Air logo, or the paint schemes. I think they're going to operate it as a separate entity with code sharing. That would be my guess. I've been wrong before, but I think on this one, you would have such great pushback from the people of Hawaii about something that's very much a part of their state that they won't do that. Okay. Adrian's saying, reciprocity shouldn't be applicable when lives are at stake. That's a clear conflict of interest. Don't you know that? Okay. Anyway, now let's go to some of your other questions that you've asked that we didn't get a chance to answer yet, but we will right now. Here we go. Okay. Oh, here's one from Elisa. What do I recommend to do in Paris in the winter? Everything you're doing in the summer, but with no lines. That's what you want to do. And also use the train stations to do day trips out to the Loire Valley and so many great places you can go for day trips and then come back. That's wonderful. The restaurants are less crowded. The Louvre is somewhat less crowded. I can save you a lot of time. The Mona Lisa is very small. Okay, we're done. But it's no different. Seasonality is not there anymore. And by the way, that's a good thing because you're not going to Paris for suntan anyway. You're going to Paris to immerse yourself in the culture. Okay, Mike wants to know, how do I rate Victorinox luggage? It's okay. But I go, it's interesting. We just posted, I ran it last week, and maybe Anthony can repost it today. We ran a segment for my show, The Travel Detective, on my candidates for the best luggage. And I've got two. And it's not based on style or color. It's based on their warranty and which warranties really work. And there are two. One is Briggs & Riley. They give you a lifetime warranty and they'll fix anything. I'm not kidding. I mean, I've seen suitcases run over by semis, excuse me. Semi's Egyptian. Semi. And they replaced it or fixed it. And the other luggage manufacturer is the German company, Remova. They will fix anything. And, other luggage manufacturers, not so fast. They have so many exclusions on their warranties and definitions of what they call wear and tear. It's essentially worthless. Okay? So I'm a big fan. Go with the lifetime warranties that make sense. And the two that make sense to me are Briggs & Riley and Remova. Okay. Tim wants to know, can I explain the practice of skip lagging? I will on one condition, that you don't do it. All right? Skip lagging refers to what we call hidden city tickets. And I'll give you an example. It's a way to save money, but it won't work anymore because you're violating an airline tariff. All right? Here's the way it worked. Let's say I want to go from Los Angeles to Dallas, and the fare is $400. But the same airline has a flight from Los Angeles to Austin, Texas, that stops in Dallas, and it's $250. So skip lagging means it's the hidden city. You buy a ticket with a final destination of Austin, but you get off on the plane lands in Dallas, and you save $150. Here's why that doesn't work. Remember the word algorithm? Well, the airlines have sophisticated systems now that know exactly if you've completed the flight as it was printed on your contract. So if you get off the flight in Dallas and don't reboard it to change planes to go to Austin, the airline knows that, and they void the rest of your return ticket. And should you attempt to use it, because you're not leaving from Austin, you were leaving from Dallas, That means your flight's been canceled. And should you do want to fly back from Dallas, they will charge you a full fare ticket. And they would be within their rights to do it because you have violated the stipulations in their contract of carriage. So now, can it work? It can work in a very limited sense. If you're only flying one way and you have no bags. Because remember, when you check in for that flight, even though you know the hidden city is Dallas, the counter agent doesn't know that, and they're going to tag that bag to Austin, which of course is not what you had in mind. But with the exception of that, don't do it. All right? Okay, here's one. I'm looking to go to Europe next summer. This is from D, and I'm already afraid of the cost. When do you think I should purchase tickets for the summer of 2024? Can I make a suggestion? Don't go in the summer of 2024. Remember the Olympics in Paris? Not a good idea. Go in September. September is the magic month in Europe. It's also the magic month on the East Coast and the West Coast of the United States. It's my favorite time of the year to travel. If you can possibly do it in September, you'll be much better off. Now, to answer your question about when to book the tickets, not now. Back to the word algorithm again. The airlines have algorithms that can project demand and set prices. They go year over year. They're not sophisticated enough or set up fast enough now to tell you about September prices of next year. They will know that by April or May. So wait, and then you'll have an idea to see if the prices go down. If you try to book it now, it'll be a very expensive ticket. Okay. Let me see if there's any more that I missed. Okay, I want to go for, it's time for the photo of the week. I almost forgot. Let's do it, Anthony. How do you like this for light? I love it. You know where this was taken? First of all, let's say hello to Richard Yellen, who took this picture. And Richard writes, it was done in the Serengeti. It's not only an amazing place to view animals, but also to see atmospheric conditions at their finest. Driving to my lodge, I saw the storm just ahead of us. Timing is everything when it comes to photos, and of course, so is the lighting. Nicely done, Richard. And if you think you've got a photo that qualifies as the photo of the week, you know what to do. Just send it to photo contest at petergreenberg.com. And if we agree with you, it goes right next to Richard's photo next week. So thanks for doing that. Anthony has now just posted the luggage warranty piece, and I hope you had a chance to take a look at that. A couple of housekeeping notes, of course. Our show, Eye on Travel, airing this Saturday, day after tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you can't find it on your local markets, it's easy. We stream it live at petergreenberg.com. And of course, go to Amazon to see all of our shows, and of course, Apple TV as well. Thank you guys for joining us today. I am actually going to go stroll the Croisette here in the darkness because it's still lovely no matter what time of the day. I'll see you on the radio on Saturday. Everybody be safe, travel safe, and most importantly, travel smart, and I'll see you next week.